Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look at a really specific historical source. It's excerpts from William Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica, focusing on a plant called Barosma crenulatum. Our mission, really, for you listening, is to pull out the key ideas about this plant. You might know it as buchu, maybe Barosma crenata, and see how it was used traditionally, straight from Boericke's text.
Exactly. And just to give some context, a materia medica like this, in that traditional sense, it's basically a detailed reference book. It lists out properties, uses
Yeah.
of therapeutic substances. It gives you a really structured way to understand how a plant like buchu was seen and used by practitioners back then. It's like a snapshot of that specific medical thinking.
Okay, right. So let's dive in then. What is Barosma crenulatum buchu, according to Boericke? What's the main takeaway?
Well, Bowie gets straight to the point. He highlights its most significant traditional focus. It has, and I quote, marked specific effects on the genitourinary system. That's not just a minor note. It really shows how traditional practice often pinpointed these specific affinities, which organ, which system a remedy worked on.
The genitourinary system.
Yeah.
That's pretty specific.
Very. It suggests they were observing closely, even without our modern tools, finding where buchu seemed to have its biggest impact.
And the source digs deeper into that, right? It lists specific conditions.
It does.
Things like mucopurulent discharges, so mucus mixed with pus,
Yes, exactly.
and irritable bladder with vesical catarrh. That sounds like bladder inflammation.
That's right. Inflammation of the bladder lining.
Yeah.
Also, prostatic disorders, issues with the prostate gland.
Okay. And gravel, like small stones.
Precisely. Small urinary stones. And finally, leukorrhea, which is described as a type of vaginal discharge.
Wow. That's a very detailed list of uses.
And that's what's really fascinating about these materia medicas, those specific details. They weren't just random observations, they were like signposts for the practitioner. They helped guide how you'd actually use the plant for which specific kind of presentation. It's almost like a clinical map for that remedy.
Right, guiding the application. Now, something I found really interesting was the relationship section. It says to compare Barosma crenulatum to things like Copaiba, Thuja, Populus, Chimoff, and it also just says C. diosma. What's that about? What do those comparisons mean?
Ah, yes. That's where you see the real interconnectedness of this knowledge system. These comparisons are vital. They're cross-references. Think about it, Copaiba, Thuja, Populus, Chimoff. There are other botanicals, right? Often with similar or maybe overlapping actions, especially for urinary issues.
So if Buchu wasn't quite right,
Exactly. The practitioner might think, okay, maybe Copaiba is a better fit here, or perhaps Thuja has a slightly different nuance that matches the patient better. It allows for fine-tuning. And the C. diosma note, that often points to a really close relationship, maybe botanical, maybe therapeutic. Sometimes it could even be an older or alternative name for buchu itself, depending on the region or classification used. It's like a built-in index showing how detailed their knowledge was.
that makes sense. A whole network of related remedies. So, okay, bringing it down to practical use, the text mentions the dose, just says tincture or tea from leaves. Pretty simple.
It is simple, but tells you a lot. It shows the emphasis back then was on using the whole plant, in easy to make forms. Not isolating compounds like we might today, but using the plant's natural synergy. Making a tea, an infusion, or an alcohol extract, a tincture. These were standard ways to get the plant's benefits. It connects right back to the roots of herbal practice.
So if we boil it down, the essence of Barosma crenulatum from this specific Boericke text is really a plant with very noted, very traditional, and quite specific uses, especially focused on that genitourinary area.
Precisely. It's a clear picture from one specific historical lens.
A fascinating glimpse, really.
And, looking at a historical text like Boericke's, it really drives home how thoroughly people studied and documented natural substances for specific effects. Even within these traditional frameworks, it makes you think, doesn't it? About this long human history of trying to understand and use nature for health, and how different systems, different eras give us these unique perspectives. It leaves you wondering, what other old sources are out there, maybe overlooked, that hold these kinds of specific, intriguing details about natural remedies? What else might we learn?